Gravitational waves have been finally discovered. A long thought about sort of feature of the universe, of Einstein's world. It's the last part of relativity, basically, that's not been proven.
Yeah, sure. So general relativity, everything else has been sort of experimentally or observationally confirmed. Yeah. Apart from this last little bit, gravitational waves. Yeah.
Which is cool. So gravitational waves, if anyone doesn't know, are kind of ripples in space-time caused by gravitational bodies that affect gravity. Imagine if you have, say, an analogy that people use for general relativity for the effect of large masses on space-time tends to be like a sheet stretched out, and you put like a big object on that sheet and it bends it in a certain way, and if you drop something around it, it will spin around that sheet until it hits into it. So that's kind of like a rough kind of approximation.
So like something with a lot of mass causes more of a warping effect.
Exactly.
Which means the things fall towards it more readily, which is essentially what gravity is.
Yes.
So I mean, it's a kind of it's an analogy that we can understand. But
and as an analogy, gravitational waves, when you basically say, as an analogy again, if you drop something onto that sheet, it will ripple. Yeah. And those ripples will propagate out into that sheet. So in a way, Einstein predicted that gravitational waves, if space-time worked in the way he thought, that you would get these wave effects from like massive objects.
Yeah, it's not just a massive object on its own, though.
You would be able to detect them from massive objects.
A single object on its own, like the sun or something, though, doesn't create waves. It does. It affects space-time around it, but you need two bodies that are orbiting each other or something like that.
Yeah, you have to have a change, something that would cause like a ripple.
Yeah, like the analogy that I read was imagine like a dumbbell, like weights, like lifting weights. Yeah. If you spin that on its axis, right? That's an example of something that wouldn't create gravitational waves.
Yes.
It's the same mass and everything. Yeah. But it's spinning like a cylinder spinning, essentially. Wouldn't create gravitational waves. But if you rotate it around it's up the other
big
axis,
masses.
That would. So like two planets orbiting like a sun, like two massive suns, like a binary star system or something, would potentially make gravitational waves, or two like giant black holes or something like that, like orbiting each other.
Yeah, and that's indeed what they discovered, was two black holes orbiting.
Yeah, and the more mass they have, and the more rapidly they move, like the more magnitude of waves, ripples that you get out of it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So there's loads of, first of all, that's just another confirmation that Einstein's relativity works in the universe. For example, if we didn't discover gravitational waves, we looked down to the sensitivities we would expect to see them. Yeah. Then you might be able to start saying things like, maybe space-time doesn't work quite in the way that Einstein thought. Yeah. As in, everything else works in his theories, but he doesn't produce waves, so maybe there's some kind of like weird interaction going on. Now that we've discovered them, you pretty much have to, although we did already, but assume that it's in every measurable way right. Yeah. Which is slightly problematic again for physics, because
it falls apart at small scales.
Yes, it does. But there's other theories that it's not like our understanding of the universe was riding on whether this was true or not. It's just that there's going to have to be some sort of paradigm shift.
For sure,
to explain everything. But it means that we're going to be able to maybe kind of explore the universe in a new way. Yeah. Use them as a sort of a way of like observing objects that we don't have at the moment, because at the moment all the observations we make of the universe are based on the electromagnetic spectrum, so light waves basically. And now there's problems involved with that, like they get absorbed by things and they get like refracted and changed and like all this stuff. Exactly. And there's, it just basically gives us like a new method.
Yeah, gives us a new method. So like when another like degree of freedom, like another like set of measurements that we can use
to visualize or measure parts of the universe. Potentially things. Well, I don't know if it gives us any like more scope for expanding our like view of the universe. I don't think it does particularly.
What
it
you
gives
mean,
like more resolution,
like actually expanding the observable universe? I'm not sure.
I don't think it. Don't know. Well, they propagate at the speed of light, don't they? Gravitational waves. So
yeah, do they?
I think.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I think isn't that like the difference between like Newton and Einstein? Newton thought it would happen like instantly, and Einstein said it actually happens at the speed of light, like gravitational influence or something. Yeah. Like interactions. I don't know. I'm not a physicist, but something like that.
I don't know. But if it was the speed limited to the speed of light, then of course like the observable universe would be exactly the same size. because that's what defines the observable universe.
Yeah, exactly. But in the same way we discovered loads of new things about galaxies and like phenomena using X-rays instead of we did when we used just visible light.
Yeah.
We'll gain a huge amount potentially of information from using gravitational waves to visualize things.
Yeah.
But obviously this is like early days technology, so we've only just discovered it using these kind of laser interferometers.
Yeah. Which is actually, if you look into like how the amount of like, basically what happens is these gravitational waves like propagate through the Earth, or like not through the Earth, but like through the space time that the Earth is embedded in. You get like essentially like a stretching and squashing effect. But like the amount that it stretches and squashes,
which changes the time in which the laser bounces forward and back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Along a vacuum.
But the amount that it does that is so unbelievably tiny. Yeah. Like it blew my mind a bit. It's like the fraction of the diameter of a proton or something.
Yeah, it's like
that.
100th of the diameter of a proton.
Which is like, I mean, when you think about that, it's completely unsurprising that they haven't discovered it until now.
Yeah.
Because that is, I mean, how the hell do you sort that out of all the other crap that's going on?
Well, that's why it's taking so long.
Yeah.
Very
so
tricky.
there's like two of these interferometers like on opposite sides of the United States, right? Like so like separated by lots of land space in between. And they
basically looked and detected a gravitational wave, which was so similar to the like modelled theoretical thing they were looking for that they thought it. Initially, the people who were looking at it thought it was some sort of error, actually not an error, but some sort of deliberately embedded signal they were doing like blind tests with it, and they thought it was like a signal that they've not been told about. And when they checked it back and talked to the people who were embedding these signals, said no, that's what we've been looking for. And it's like,
nah, come on, really, really,
it's like identical to what they were expecting.
There's a picture of it somewhere, some of the articles and stuff of those, like the comparison between like the modelled signal and the recorded signal. Of at least one of the examples of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's the same basically.
Yes, yeah. It's
like
just
a
it's a bit more sort of noise and kind of but it's just exactly the way it sort of the amplitude changes and the way the wavelength changes and everything is just exactly the same. Like the pattern's exactly the same. It's really cool. So they've got this early instrument now that they've just developed to detect these things. But I think that can only detect things with a certain like wavelength and amplitude. Right. So you're going to have to probe like different parts. So certain things like neutron stars and other things would produce like a different set of gravitational waves that wouldn't be able to be detected by this LIGO thing.
There's going to be like a whole spectrum of like wavelengths and like frequencies of gravitational waves that like things that correspond to.
Yeah, like sound waves or light waves.
That's mad. So there's going to be like probably like characteristic patterns that are given off by certain like objects or certain events and things like that. Man, that's so fucking cool.
And there'll be like, it's very hard, but you'd have to potentially build like one of these things like in space, maybe to a space telescope version of it, which would be very difficult because they would be able to do it probably at some point, but it's because at the moment it's so hard to build these things like with the like detection limits they're looking at, that having to pack all that up and get it right in one go and then sending it up is really, really tricky because they've had to make so many adjustments to LIGO, like going back and forth fixing like the tiniest little things.
So it sounds like the kind of thing that's going to need to be developed considerably on Earth before we get to the point of like
sticking one in space.
Something into space.
But yeah, potentially there's a whole new like method of probing the universe now, which is going to lead to some cool stuff. They might be able to image things and kind of. I don't know how it works, but they'll be
build up some weird like gravitational.
Be able to look at like the way stuff clusters around, like galaxies cluster around dark matter in like, different ways.
Yeah. Oh man,
using gravitational waves.
That's going to be really cool. And look at it on some of the largest scales, like the overall like large scale structure of the universe and things. Maybe might be able to like probe that in some way with gravitational waves. The other week we were talking about warp bubbles.
Oh yeah, what in
a ship? This concept of like a ship that could bend space time.
Yeah, I think we talked about like M drives and all that kind of.
Yeah,
was it in that episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a ship that can travel, potentially move itself through the universe faster than the speed of light by bending space time. I wonder if that would send off gravitational waves. I don't know.
Yeah, it would.
It's a thing that's warping space time, which is what like a massive object does.
It would like you imagine like a boat going through water.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so I wonder if you could like.
It would definitely
detect that.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, presumably,
like theoretically, detect like an alien.
Obviously, that's going to be tiny in comparison to the output
from like a
black
massive
hole.
yeah, that's true,
but
hidden somewhere in these like already absolutely minuscule signals, maybe
artificial
there's like
gravitational
waves that are a consequence of like alien faster than light vehicles.
Yeah, but I mean that's, if you think about it though, I mean, we don't see anything in the visible spectrum, which is way more basic technology.
That's very true.
If we don't see anything in the visible spectrum, then it seems even less likely we're going to see something in a gravitational wave spectrum.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because they would probably have been outputting. Although unless that's how you travel when you get to after like being around for a few million years as a civilization or whatever.
Yeah, but you still expect that whoever's doing the travelling would be admitting like in the visible or in the radio or something like that we'd also see, or like just generally the evidence of them would be like around.
You'd expect that.
But yeah, still.
But what I'm saying is like you might have like a civilization. Say how old is civilization on Earth? Like 10,000 years old or something ish. Yeah, 50, whatever. Sure. Say after a million years of civilization, which is quite like a small like period of the universe's lifetime. You emit light waves for a certain amount of time, and then for a much longer period of time, you don't really emit much in the visible spectrum. It all tends to be like gravitationally. That's just absolute bollocks. Yeah. But, maybe that's therefore a better way to look for civilizations, because for a longer period of time they're emitting stuff in like a gravitational wave spectrum. I'm obviously this is probably nonsense.
Who knows? I mean, it's cool to think about at least.
It's cool to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So the gravitational waves could lead us to lots of cool places potentially. Yeah,
definitely going to be
some
new science coming out of that stuff. It's going to be a while before they kind of build like new ones and stuff, but absolutely,
those guys must have been celebrating pretty hard.
Probably going to be a Nobel Prize.
Good question. Possibly, yeah.
I think so.
I reckon, yeah.
How the hell are they going to? They've got to pick 3 people to give the Nobel Prize to.
Out of the team of people that...
Which is like, the author list of these things are like 3,000 people.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's like, even that's cutting people out probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. There might be some PIs that would get it. Anyway, they're going to have
to make some people unhappy basically with that decision, probably.
But I imagine that's going to get the Nobel Prize for physics. It's also like way within the number of the sigma limit, the 5 sigma limit of like a discovery. It's like 7 or something. I can't remember. It's basically a big tick.
Yeah, cool. So that'll probably happen.
So yeah, this year probably Nobel Prize.
Yeah,
we'll go to that for physics.